I've pushed the right buttons and I'm here with you now. So I guess I wanted to talk initially about koans and people come, to a crossroad in their practice where they decide whether they want to study koans or do shikantaza, just sitting. And either way is fine. But I always like to tell people that uh, even if you don't study koans, you're going to be working on koans your entire life. Um, and that's because life is nothing but a succession of koans. Things change. We have decisions to make where we can't possibly have all the data we need to be sure that we're right. And we sort of have to sit with the situation and allow our life koans to open. And one of the koans, the life koans that I work with in my work with Zen is how to make the teachings of the ancient teachings and practices relevant to us here in the 21st century in New York City or wherever we happen to be tuning in from. So when we look in the teachings, we see a lot about home departure. And home departure is a phrase that is in the literature is customarily used to refer to people who leave their families and their villages and become monks living in monasteries, or they become maybe ascetics living in the forest or on mountains, like Shakyamuni was a prince who left his home in the pleasure palace to be an ascetic in the forest initially. So we hear a lot about home departure in the teachings, but what might that mean for us who are, whether we're ordained or not? We're basically lay people with day jobs, families, responsibilities, and none of us are in monasteries or living as ascetics on the mountains or in the forest. So what might it mean to make a home departure? And what's come up for me is what we work with in our practice is our ability or our tendency to have a mental map of the way our lives and the way the world is supposed to be. We all have it and we all need it. My life is supposed to be this way. My life is supposed to go this way. I have a mental map about the way, what I'm going to do tomorrow. Well, gosh, I'm 72 years old. Do I know for sure that I'm going to be here tomorrow? Not really. Certainly not. But I have a mental map about I'm going to be going to the office on the subway. And if something happens to make that not possible, it could be something as simple as there being a subway strike. Uh, uh, that can be very disconcerting. I'm off my mental map. And one of the things that makes life so hard for us, I believe, is it's constantly frustrating our need to know how things are going to be and what we should do. It's good to have a mental map. It's good for me to have an appointment book with uh, my patients' appointments in it. Uh, and I'm going to do my best to be there on time and do a good job seeing my patients. But that's just a map. Reality might prove to be something quite different, something quite unforeseeable. And those of us who have, been alive for a while, and even those of us who are still young, we know how life can change on a dime, how quickly we can find ourselves off our mental map of the way things are supposed to be and what our lives should be. Certainly the pandemic gave us a big shove off of our mental map. We were just going about our ordinary business, and before we knew it, we were locked into isolation. Boom, just like that. Very disconcerting. Um, I have a long-time friend who was in a very serious auto accident and as a result suffered a stroke. Uh, and not too long ago, earlier in the year, she was going about her business hiking near where she lives, and now she's in a rehab facility. Uh, and there's no knowing how much of, her various abilities she's going to get back. You just have to wait and see. This is what causes us to live our lives in fear, uh, which causes us to clutch after a security that can only be very partial and very temporary. So what we do is we make our home departure, and we agree with ourselves in Zen not to cling with such desperation to our mental maps, and instead to practice this moment. Uh, is the light red? I stop my car. I practice the moment. Is the light green? I go. I practice the moment. Is, as sometimes happens around here, the traffic light on the fritz and there is no light? Well, I have to practice the moment along with all the other drivers who are trying to figure out what to do. So rather than clinging to a mental map, I can allow myself to practice. Rather than clinging to a mental map of what my zazen is supposed to be, oh, it's supposed to be peaceful. Oh, it's supposed to be quiet. Oh, it's supposed to advance me towards some steady state called enlightenment where nothing's going to be a problem for me ever again. Well, we leave that mental map behind sooner or later, and we just do zazen. And we practice the moments of our zazen one by one. If our brain is spitting out 1,000 thoughts, we notice that, and we just come back to sitting with our 1,000 thoughts. If we're having, a nice period where not too many thoughts are bedeviling us, we practice that. If our knees are hurting, we practice that. If we're confused and anxious, well, That's what we sit with. And over time, we sort of release our hold on it, the mental map of what our zazen is supposed to be and what practice is supposed to feel like. And we just practice. I mean, really, that's what the Buddha did. Everything he tried in the 6 years that he was a wandering ascetic studying various practices, it all failed him. None of it worked. And he just gave up and he sat. He practiced. So making a home departure for us doesn't mean becoming like holy sages on top of a mountain. It means letting go of our mental maps, what are sometimes in the teachings called the nests that we build for ourselves, and increasing our willingness to open our hearts, to open our minds, and to allow the moment to manifest whatever it happens to be, and to respond to it skillfully, whatever that might happen to mean. The 26th patriarch was the Venerable Punyamitra. The 25th patriarch said to him, "You wish to make your home departure. What thing must you do?" The master said, "When I make my home departure, I will do no particular thing. I don't have some mental map made up for what I'm going to do when I make my home departure. Making my home departure means loosening my grasp on that mental map and responding to whatever. My home departure has no particular content. I will do no particular thing." And then the patriarch said, "Well, what must you not do?" And the master said, "I will not do any ordinary thing. I will not do any ordinary thing." That kind of took me aback when I read it because, we're always saying that Zen is ordinary. Uh, and But actually, when we think about it, the ordinary couldn't be more extraordinary, couldn't be more miraculous. I talked about the traffic light. Think of all the genius that had to go in, all the years of learning that had to go into the design and construction of a device that could reliably give signals like that. Think of all the people who worked manufacturing it. Think of all the metallurgical skills that the human race had to acquire in order to have the capability of manufacturing such a thing. So, is a traffic light ordinary or is it extraordinary? Well, when it's red, I stop the car. When it's green, I go. At least that's what I try to do. So the master said, "I will do no ordinary thing." And the patriarch said, "What must you do?" And the master said, "I must do Buddha work. I must do Buddha work." What a triggering phrase that is. It can trigger all sorts of stinky ideas about what the Buddha work is. what walking the path of a Buddha looks like. Uh, I had a guy tell me the other day, he's in a different Buddhist practice, but he said when he first got started with it, there was a poster on the walls showing someone in meditation, levitating like 3 feet off the ground. Wow, now that's a Buddha work. Uh, well, why not? But it's also just feeding your kids, cleaning your house, brushing off your cushion when the period is over so you can get up and do kinhin. That's also the Buddha work. I must do the Buddha work. We all must do the Buddha work. We must all commit ourselves to practice and commit ourselves to being not so clingy to our ideas about how things are supposed to be, how people are supposed to be, what we like, what we don't like, has to cease to become the criteria by which we judge the world, this miraculous world that we're so privileged to be with, to interact with, and to manifest our lives in. I must do the Buddha work. Master Kazan's poem, commenting on this dialogue, says, the original realm is ordinary. The original realm is ordinary. The realm of the Buddhas and sages is ordinary and very, very extraordinary. That realm is our realm. It's the realm of our lives, arising moment by moment by moment. The realm of the Buddhas is ordinary, without an inch of grass. Grass means, I think we're all familiar with Japanese rock gardens and so on. Grass is a bad thing in that context. You don't want any grass to appear in your beautiful rock garden. You want it to be bare and clean. So the original realm is ordinary without an inch of grass. Well, what is that original realm? Does it look different than the stop sign and the traffic light? Does it look different than the cat and the dog? Does it look different and sound different than the noisy neighbor who can't seem to turn down his sound system or television? The original realm is ordinary without an inch of grass. In other words, the ever-arising complications and frustrations and problems of life, the joys and the tragedies, they are all the original realm. No matter what our opinion of them might happen to be, the original realm is ordinary, without an inch of grass. And then Master Kazan said, what room is there here for the ways of Zen? What room is there here for thinking there's something special about Zen, or that being a Zen person is being some special kind of person? You know, we have the saying, Zen stink. You know, how people can get very hung up and very pure in their way that they think the practice is supposed to be. Well, I couldn't afford that because it was my karma not just to practice with the Village Zendo, it was my karma also to practice with the Empty Hand Zen Center in New Rochelle, which is in a different lineage. It's in the lineage of Suzuki Roshi. Uh, I had to relearn the Heart Sutra because they use a different translation. Uh, it's a different practice space. I had to learn how to move in it. And when I was doing, officiating at the service, the timing was quite different than it is at our Zendo downtown. And of course, our Zendo downtown is a very different space than we inhabited before the pandemic on Broadway. Uh, it keeps changing. What was right to do in one space is wrong to do in another space. So, of course, years ago when I walked into the Zendo at New Rochelle and I had to deal with all the differences, the first thing that came up for me was, oh, this is wrong. This is wrong. It was like what David Burns said, this is not my beautiful life. This is not my beautiful service. This is not my beautiful Heart Sutra. No, it wasn't right. It wasn't wrong. It was exactly the form that it was, and I had to learn it if I wanted to practice there. So it's not like you ever get to a point where you have no mental maps and you have no idea of how things are supposed to be and how you want them to go. That never happens, and it doesn't need to happen. All that needs to happen is you need to be willing to let go your grip on all that stuff. Just to let it go as it comes up. And then practice the moment. That's it. The moment by moment by moment experience of our lives is the preaching of the Dharma. That's all. That is the Dharma we're talking about. Our Dharma brothers and sisters are exactly the people who practice with us. They're not saints or holy sages. And over time, gradually, as we practice, we become more and more willing to let go of our mental map of what practice is supposed to be, what practitioners are supposed to be, what teachers are supposed to be, what, quote, good Zen students are supposed to be, let alone all the crazy people we meet in New York and in the course of our lives and the far-flung places that we go to and may live in. We just stop. We just let go of that. Nothing has to happen. Nothing has to change. But what does need to happen is we need to practice our lives. We need to practice our moments. Get out of our nests and deal with what's right here before us. In the Buddha's case, it was the abject failure of all his previous practices. So he sat down. He just sat down. That was what was right for him at that time. What's right for you? Where is your practice leading you? It's not possible to know completely, but it is possible to practice. It is possible to walk the way of the Buddha and do the Buddha work.